What's up with the world? It's your boy Sleepy J. You are tuned in to the Know It All Sports Podcast. I am Sleepy J, and with my co-host.
This is Coach Rudy, the man, the myth, the legend, the one you all hate and love at the same time.
All right, guys, we have a lot of things that we are going to go over today. Actually, I don't know if it's a lot, but we're going to go over a lot. We're going to go over stuff.
That's what we're going to talk.
and you will listen. That wasn't rehearsed. That was completely us being us. But all right.
Stop lying. All right, well, look. We're going to start off by recapping something from the last show that we were talking about that we were both kind of right on. That is the Woodley-Paul fight. Now, I know some of you are saying, what are you talking about? You said Woodley was going to win. I said, look, Woodley will whoop him. The part that I did not speak on was the idea that Woodley was not going to fight. If Woodley would have fought, I believe Woodley would have won. And what was it? I think the fourth round where Woodley actually gave Paul a nice little combo that really...
Did you say the fourth round? Yeah, it was
the
fourth.
Where he really put Paul on the ropes.
Yeah.
So... in that idea, if Woodley would have been maintaining that stuff, Woodley would have won. Now, that didn't happen.
Not at all.
We also said that there's a chance. You said it. You said if it goes a distance, it's going to go Paul's way.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yes. At the end of the day, Woodley put up a close enough fight that there was a split decision. It wasn't a unanimous decision. We all seen him stumble Paul. So there's that. There's talks of a possible rematch. They're trying to play it off like they don't want to do it. Paul's trying to say that he had his chance. He just wants to fight me because he's getting paid more than he ever had before. Things of that nature. Which is not necessarily wrong. This is Woodley's biggest payday because we all know that in the UFC they don't like to pay their fighters very much compared to boxing. So I will say that all that stuff tracks, but I wouldn't be surprised because Paul said at the end of that fight he will fight him again if he'll fight Woodley again if Woodley gets a tattoo that says "I love Jake Paul." And he said bet. I don't know if he was serious or not, but if he does, I wouldn't be surprised if he got it until the fight was, and then he gets it covered up. Or as Coach Rudy said when we were talking about it, maybe he gets a henna
tattoo.
Yeah. So all these things are possible. I wouldn't count it out. I think that for Jake Paul's trajectory to continue to grow, he's going to probably need somebody to get a grudge match to really kind of believe that he's as good as he's trying to believe that he is. But I want to leave it at that as far as for the fight. I do want to talk about, is he actually boxing or is he actually being a spectacle? Does he
have skill or is he a spectacle, like you said?
Yeah. Are we just being entertained by a YouTuber that this is what he does? He just entertains people by talking trash and doing things. Because he's always, I don't know if anyone knows, but on YouTube, he gets in trouble a lot because he's doing things like going to a forest where people hang themselves in Japan and putting it on his YouTube, or saying very controversial things that YouTube says you're not supposed to say.
He's an attention seeker.
Yeah.
So, with that said, last time we were talking, we were kind of giving him a little bit of credit for improving in his boxing. We said, okay, we see some improvement in what he's doing. Right. Now, after watching the Woodley fight, I saw no improvement between this fight and the previous ones. So right. I have to recant that idea. And in recanting that notion that Jake Paul is actually working at being a boxer, and I have to recant it because his skill has not improved between these fights. Right. He is too green for me not to see massive improvements in every fight. That's what a fighter does.
Do you know
So
how old he is right now?
he's in his 20s, ain't he?
Like he's like 25ish. Is that? I'm just
I think
curious.
27ish.
Okay.
Think the other one's around 25. Well,
Anyways, go ahead.
Either way with it. Usually in a boxer, you will see improvements fight to fight in technique. You didn't see that in this one. His punches are still wild. He still has no control of his lower body to upper body in movement, in punching or in ducking. So when we're looking at what he is doing, his head-to-head movement, side-to-side movement is poor. So when we're looking at it, if he's not improving and he's not knocking everybody out,
Yeah.
then he's not really trying to become a boxer.
Right. I did just check. He's 24 right now.
Wow, really? He
Yeah.
looks older.
Right. So, but my reasoning for checking that out is by the time you see a professional boxer at 24, they're officially starting to show some skill. And we're talking in a world of professionalism, whether you're talking football, baseball, hockey, boxing, whatever the case is. By the time you get to your mid-20s, you're starting to approach probably your prime. Yeah, you're probably about halfway through your career, and if he's just getting started, he's very, very below the bar. Even if you're looking at an early boxer in their early boxing career, he's still light years behind them. Because as we've said before, or at least I've mentioned, I don't know if I said it on here, but when you're boxing, there's amateur boxers fight 50 fights before they go to a pro fight. And then, if they didn't go to Olympics or whatever the case before. Like if you look at some of these older boxers from back in the day, they've had literally hundreds of fights when they didn't have the same rules and regulations that we have today. So that to say, okay, maybe we're being smarter on not having so many fights and things like that of the nature.
Rounds.
Yeah. But even still, you got to improve your skill level. And if we're going to say he's an amateur, he's 4 amateur fights in, 5 amateur fights in. But he's wanting to bark up to the boxing elites and thinks that he can hang because maybe he did fight a retired former champion.
Maybe he fought athletes because that's what he chose.
Yeah.
After the first fellow YouTuber. But athletes is not, it doesn't mean that they're boxers. Doesn't mean that it translates.
Right.
Now, I'll say this. What I look at him as, he's a kangaroo. The boxer that used to fight kangaroos, he's actually the kangaroo. I don't think much of this guy.
Yeah. I was just more, my thinking of this is what I was thinking is because he keeps stating that he wants to fight a boxer. And my concern with wanting to fight a boxer, and he keeps saying he's not going to lose. So there's a lot to digest in that, and where we were saying, like, if it goes the distance, he's not going to take the loss. And if you're doing this, are we watching wrestling? That's basically what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
are we watching wrestling? Is this a fixed fight? Are we watching...
With his comments being so demonstrative of the idea that he won't lose, is it already written in the contract that in order for these people to get paid, he has to win?
Because if you're, again, boxing enthusiast, fighting enthusiast as we are, and you watch a fighter that doesn't go in for a kill when normally they would go in for the kill and they don't, you start to wonder, like, was that fixed? Did they just have a moment of lapse? Did I not, take advantage of a situation? Those are little things, but if you see it time and time again, you start to think, I think we're watching wrestling. I think these fights have already been predetermined. We know who's going to win because he's the big cash cow. They're not actual boxing rules. We're using amateur rules, maybe slightly a little bit more professional because we're not using the headgear anymore. But at all intents and purposes, I think we're looking at, this is entertainment at its best. Whether you're looking at wrestling and in the boxing form, we've already determined we're going to win. We're going to make a lot of money. We'll get other celebrities to get involved in this, and that's our circus.
Yeah, and honestly, based on what we're seeing, that's not a far-fetched thought.
Yeah, at this point, I'm gonna probably fall back on anything that he. I'll pay attention if it happens, but I'm not necessarily gonna be so enthused about it until I see a actual boxer step in that ring. Maybe if Woodley fights him again, I'll tune in just because I'm from St. Louis and I know Woodley. I do want to say thank you Woodley for not getting knocked out. Thank you Woodley for keeping pressure on him, because I know a lot of people counted him out. Like, as soon as Woodley said, "Oh, he's old, he's washed up, he's no longer the champ," and I, for one, I was like, he hasn't fought.
Woodley did lose his last 4 fights in the MMA, something like that.
As we said before, though, MMA is different than boxing.
It definitely is.
So
it definitely is. Look, a lot of these guys in the MMA, they get a lot of respect.
Yeah,
they only win 2/3 of their fights.
Yeah.
2/3 of their fights.
Right.
2/3 of their fights.
I hear what you're saying, and that's
2/3. Look, when you look at the boxers that get credit, you're talking about winning 95% of your fights.
Right.
Because once you got over 5-6 losses, you better have 60 wins.
Right.
Because people are dismissing you.
I do want to point out about Jake Paul. He's 24, and at 24, Canelo fought Floyd, and at that point, he had already had 44 fights to match
professional fights
to match Floyd's, and Floyd had been fighting for 15 years before he did.
Yeah.
So
when I look at this kid, Jake Paul, I'm 38, just so y'all know. Got 14 years senior on him. It's probably been...
Damn, I missed my Kevin Hart. Damn moment.
It's been probably that long since I was in a fight, at least. And that said, I could go in to the boxing ring just off my knowledge of boxing and the way I was as a fighter and go the distance with this cat, and I'm out of shape.
I'm not even going to go that far.
And I would venture to say that I would TKO this cat.
I would go as far as to say me.
Now, you knock him out in the first round.
I was going to say, if I got in that ring, there's a very good possibility you're going to get 2.5 solid rounds where I applied enough pressure that if I didn't knock him out, I was winning those 2.5 rounds. Once we get past that, I'm probably going to be gassed. Unless he pisses me off. Then I can probably get another round and a half.
If he gets close to you, you're knocking him out.
Yeah, if he allows me to touch him, but that's...
You're knocking him out.
but
I've seen those hands, man.
I'm just saying, as far as for, like, in the boxing world of being like, okay, if we're doing the good old-fashioned bounce around, hit, working your angles, I've done competitive karate, and I can tell you it's a different world, points and whatever, and trying to work those angles, as opposed to doing it in the street. It's a different world. It's different thinking strategy-wise.
Now let's go to something that we were talking about that before, off air. We were working on the idea that, all right, if these fights are on the up and up,
right, and
Jake Paul is legitimately winning these things, and it's not just because he has it rigged. If that's the case, what does this say about mixed martial arts? Because now he would have beaten 2 mixed martial artists.
I've been someone that study fights, and I always say people lose the fight when they stop fighting their fight. And if you take a MMA fighter out of their realm and they can't succeed in a boxing world, it's because they're not fighting their fight, because it's not what they trained for. But if we're just talking like let's analyze a boxer versus a MMA fighter, I would say that if he's winning them straight up, that they're not as big and badass as a lot of people try to make them sound, because they
those particular fighters or MMA fighters as a whole.
Well, I don't judge people I don't judge a fighter by their what's the word? I guess the word would be their skill set, meaning I don't judge them by if you do karate, or you do MMA, or you're a boxer on whether or not I think they could fight.
Oh, their discipline?
That's it. That's the word, discipline. Yeah, I don't judge them by their discipline because a good fighter is confident in their skill set, and that's how they're able. Like, they know the knowledge of what they're doing is what makes them dangerous in their discipline. So, someone once told me if I take a 9mm Smith and Wesson versus a 9mm whatever other a Taurus or whatever, and we both shoot, who wins? Someone would say like, well, this one was manufactured this way. Someone's gonna, people are gonna be biased towards their favorite, but really, whoever got the shot off first and is better
At using it.
is going to be the more successful. So it's the same thing with when you're looking at a fighter, whoever is more successful in their discipline. But in this case, I'm saying that these particular fighters, they're, because again, most people they look at size. They're afraid of someone that's bigger than them, automatically assume that they're a super bad and they're
a bigger threat.
Yeah. And for me and you, because of who our dads are and all the stories that we've heard and we've seen over the years, we know size doesn't mean shit. And this is coming
Not
from...
when it comes to fighting, no.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the muscle and how much it's going to hurt when you get hit matters, but that's assuming you're going to get hit. That's assuming so much stuff goes on. Because, again, if you know who our fathers are, they like to fight. My dad used to like to fight. His dad used to like to fight. They got in a lot of fights. Multiple people, bigger than them, smaller than them, whatever. They weren't afraid to fight. And knowing that, you can learn because they're small guys. They were 5'5" and shorter.
They were not 5'5". I don't know if your dad might have been 5'5". My dad wasn't. My dad claims to be 5'4". Probably never taller than 5'2", and right now it's probably sitting at 5'0".
Well, and that's my point. My dad was about as tall as my mom, which my mom stands about 5'3". So again, regardless, we're talking.
So let's say that 5'3", $130, $135,
right,
soaking wet,
right,
knocking out cats 6'2", 6'3", 250 pounds,
right.
And this is based off of tales that we've been told by people that were there when these things happened.
Right.
And when we say this, I have to say, I have a cousin who's probably 5'4", 5'5".
Yes.
That same build as what my father was.
Yeah.
And having fought with him, against him, and seeing what he's done.
Yeah.
I can verify that I've seen these same types of things in person done what the story said about our fathers.
I could verify from that same cousin that you're talking about that to this day is possibly the hardest hit I've taken, and he's significantly smaller than me. Granted, we were a lot younger, but again, in the fights that I've been into, that's honestly one of the punches to the jaw that I remember more than
any other
some
hit.
Fights in general. So that to being said, like for me and you, we know size doesn't necessarily matter. Now you might look at them and like again, you can tell by the way someone moves. You can tell their tempers and how they're gonna do things. But size doesn't really matter on how they're gonna come out
their
swinging.
Success.
Yeah, it depends on your confidence and what you're willing to do that the other person won't.
Yeah, so look, I brought up the idea of what does it really say about the MMA fighters? And I don't think it really does say anything other than it brings to light this idea that just because somebody studies karate, kickboxing, mixed martial arts, wrestling, boxing, that does not mean that they are necessarily good at this stuff. Or
Facts.
Even if they're good at it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be good at a different version of fighting.
Facts.
You are a man who could use weapons or bare hands.
Yes.
Extremely well. I am really good bare hands.
Right.
If we both have a weapon, I don't feel as confident. I don't feel as comfortable.
Yes.
Now, if I have to take away your weapon and use it on you, I'm cool. Which is a weird thing. It's a weird dynamic. But my hands being open is huge in the way I fight.
Right.
So, I wouldn't say that I would be a boxer in a ring, but I don't consider Jake Paul a boxer. He's a
Right.
man who's boxing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a really good fighter, but I have never been a boxer. I had one boxing match,
I remember hearing about that.
and that's it. And with that said, I never claimed I was a boxer. The whole concept of boxing, I love watching the sport, but the whole concept of boxing falls on the idea that I am going to allow you to hit me and I'm going to hit you and we're going to keep hitting each other till one of us gets tired first.
Right.
Because that's the reality of it. Yeah, you're trying to dodge them, but the
Right.
reality is I'm accepting the idea that I'm going to get hit. Whereas in fighting, I'm going to break every bone in your body before you get a chance to touch me.
Yeah, the idea of boxing versus fighting in the streets is more of one's for survival, the other one is sports or entertainment, and because of that makes all the difference in the world. Where I was going with what your question was, I think it demythifies if that's the word, demythifies the idea that a lot of people have. MMA fighters are badass compared to any other fighter discipline, which in theory, yes. If you're looking at someone like a Bruce Lee, for instance, yes, he is a badass in any field that you want to put him in.
Yeah.
As far as for fighting, but that just because he's a badass does not mean
That every other fighter is the same ilk.
exactly. That's where all that bantering back and forth.
Yeah.
That's what we were trying to say. Also proves our point to size. He was a badass, was very small,
Yeah.
and would fuck up anybody that was. And not to say he didn't take a few losses here and there, but majority of his fights, he was fucking you up because he was fast and very disciplined.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
let's move on.
So let's go forward to Dallas Cowboys, the quarterback situation. Your favorite backup quarterback,
Why do you
Cooper Rush.
Do you hate me or something? Like, by the time everyone hears this is my
Well,
birthday.
look, your birthday's tomorrow.
Technically, it's tomorrow, but by the time everyone hears this, it'll be tomorrow.
The Dallas Cowboys decided that as a gift to you, they were going to make your favorite quarterback,
Son of a
Cooper
bitch.
Rush, as their backup quarterback.
You know what makes it worse, though? It's not
That
even
he earned it over Gilbert.
the bad part to me. It's not even that. What really bothers me about it is that Jerry fixed his mouth to be on the radio saying how any play that Kellen Moore can run with Dak, Cooper can run just as well.
I didn't hear that, but that's BS.
I didn't hear it verbatim myself. That's what they were reporting on Undisputed, that he had fixed his mouth to say that regardless he could run it just as well.
Yeah, that's
Shannon called that BS, and Shannon said because if you could, you wouldn't have paid Dak all that money that you just paid Dak. So
facts.
I was like, I can't argue that argument in itself. So
Yeah, because he didn't want to pay Dak $40 million.
you know what? I think there is a lot of factors into him waiting for as long as he did. Because you guys might not believe it or not, but I think what happened was because he broke his leg, and a lot of people kept saying, you better pay him. And we're not saying that Jerry cares a fuck what everyone says, but there was some pressure by the public to pay him whatever he wanted to get paid. Because I think had he continued to play and just say he had a bad season after that break, I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have cut him and said, you know what, we're just going to scrap this. And if the quarterback market was as good for him there, I think if he had a better alternative, he may have went elsewhere. I almost was thinking that, and had Dalton had a better season after he took over, I wouldn't have been surprised had he said, guess what?
Dalton's too old. They wouldn't have done it.
I don't think they would have gave him as long of a contract.
No,
But it would have gave you a position time.
no, I
to
think
find somebody
Dalton's
else.
too old. They wouldn't have done it.
You don't think so?
No, because like I said, Dalton's too old. He may have 3 years left as a 25, 26, 27, 30 30th best quarterback in the league. Because
Fuck.
Dalton is not top 15, top 20. He's definitely in the last 5 as far as starters go.
Okay.
So, with that said, could he get back to middle of the roll 15? Yeah. But he doesn't have more than 3 years left there.
Yeah.
So, because of that, with Jerry believing that his talent right now is ripe for
Well, that's why I said head.
for excellence, you don't gamble with, all right, let me get the bottom of the barrel starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Because of that. So, there's other options out there that he could have traded for, but none that are in their prime. And right now, Dak's in the 5th year.
Yeah.
So you're looking at...
Well, that's why I was saying if you were, and this is pure speculation, rewinding last year, had Dalton got on fire, maybe he doesn't make the Super Bowl, but he at least makes it to the NFC championship game. Had he could have done that, and Dak was down like he was.
My brother's high school football coach used to say, if grasshoppers had shotguns, not as many ducks would eat them. You can't go off of that.
My point.
Had he not just won 6 games and actually won 16 games,
that's
then
my point was
Jerry would have kept him. Well, of course Jerry would have kept him if he won.
That's my point, though.
But there was no way that could happen.
My point to
now,
this
you could say if he would have got 10 wins, then maybe it'd be... Because that's a plausible what if. To say they would have got... If he would have taken them to the NFC Championship, he would have considered keeping him. No shit, Sherlock.
That's my point. Like, Dak... My whole point was Dak took a possibly career-ending... injury.
How is that possibly career ending?
Man, people take them injuries and some people don't shake that shit off. If you can't see, Coach Rudy's giving me stupid looks. But yes, people don't shake those off all the time. Like, I'm still not sold that he's going to bounce back. I still think he's going to be gunshot.
Name me one player that took that hit, that took that break.
I'll tell you what, if I take that fucking break, I'm not coming back.
Name me one quarterback that took that same break.
I've never seen that fucking break on a quarterback.
So then how are you going to tell me some players will take that and not come back?
Who fucking breaks their ankle at the shin? That's a fucking nasty-ass break. His foot was facing the other way. That shit was nasty.
Yeah, it was bad.
My thinking of him coming back and shaking it off, is he going to run out of the pocket? Is he going to still take some of those?
You want him in the pocket.
You do, but when this is part of where we're working the scheme.
That's the difference. Dak is someone who can be in the pocket. He's someone who also, at the earlier part of his career, would have been better in a run and shoot or West Coast offense style.
Yeah.
Now,
that's what he wanted.
Well, that would have been ideal for him.
Yeah.
But that's not what we ran. So he actually developed into a decent pocket quarterback.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about, what if he can't run anymore? Because the plan was for him not to run anymore.
Yeah. I don't know that was the plan. I think he wanted to run more. I think he wanted to run more of those type of plays.
Us as fans said that he's a dangerous asset because he can run. That's what a lot of people were saying. Because he can run, he's able to create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
But that said, when you look at the stats, he's a good quarterback. In the pocket or out, throwing the ball, he's a really good quarterback. Now, I said early on in his career that his best would be Alex Smith. Okay. Alex Smith would be what he could strive for.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe he's going to surpass Alex Smith. Now, keep this in mind. Those of you who don't have high opinions of Alex Smith, in San Francisco, Alex Smith took them to the Super Bowl. Yeah. Colin Kaepernick, but he still took that team to the NFC Championship.
He was Carson Wentz before Carson Wentz.
No.
By getting them to the Super Bowl and not playing?
No, dude, that type of stuff happened a bunch in NFL history. Drew Bledsoe wins the AFC Championship game, and then Brady goes into the Super Bowl and wins that.
Brady is different. Brady is the GOAT. We all know that Brady is.
It's not the only thing. Buffalo Bills, Jim Kelly gets them all the way to the Super Bowl, but gets hurt and don't play in it. This type of stuff is not that unique. Now, so when I look at it, Alex Smith was a really good quarterback. He was solid all the way through in Kansas City, in San Francisco, in Washington. He was a good quarterback. Yeah. Really good. Now,
couldn't stay healthy, but he was good.
Yeah, he could. It was at the end of his career. He was healthy in San Francisco. His first 4 years weren't good because he had 4 different coordinators each year.
Yeah, that's true.
He had the odds were not in his favor in the way the 49ers were trying to bring him along. You need to be in the same system for a while so you can develop your skills and learn the system.
Yeah.
But that said, Dak is a good quarterback. You may not like him personally. That's fine.
That's facts.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that when you look at all the stats, where he ranks in stuff,
this is true.
He is one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
I will say that if Aaron Rodgers becomes a free agent, I would cash out. I would sell him.
Look, Aaron Rodgers wants
even for
out.
1 season.
Aaron Rodgers wants out, but I would not trade Dak for him because of where Aaron Rodgers is versus where Dak is.
This is true. And I will also go on record as saying that I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan.
And I've never liked Aaron Rodgers. All right. So, look, Cowboys quarterback situation. We got a backup quarterback in Cooper Rush. You don't like the starter. You hate the backup.
Yeah.
And then we claimed Weir off of waivers.
I don't know much about him, but apparently that's kind of a big deal that he was even on waivers.
He was a high draft pick that's essentially been a bust.
Gotcha.
So he has potential.
So he can potentially be a really good backup.
He has potential if you look, most of these quarterbacks, most of these players in the league have the talent to excel. What keeps them down is one of a few factors. They get injured, so they can't show off, or they're in the wrong system. And coaches don't utilize them to their strengths. When you look at Lamar Jackson, he took the league by storm, won an MVP because his coaching staff was smart enough to recognize he's not a good quarterback, but he's a good leader. Yeah. We can utilize him as our quarterback and mix his running with his passing. Those are his strengths, and let's go out there and win. That's smart.
Yeah.
They utilize him because he wants to be a quarterback. He's got some skills, but he's not necessarily a good traditional quarterback.
Something a little off top. Like, we're still quarterbacks, but still on a different team. I'm kind of interested to see how Jameson Winston does in New Orleans.
It's going to be hard with his main receiver.
Yeah, I know.
Being out.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm interested in it. I would like to see him fix his career, even though I didn't like him when he came out of college.
Yeah.
I didn't like the whole stealing shrimp thing.
My thing is
it was annoying to me.
I know he's better than he's shown, and so that's kind
of... He's got the talent.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to see, like, because for New Orleans, my concern is, like, okay, you don't have Drew Brees, so what are you guys going to do? And I don't know that Jameson Winston's the answer, but I'm kind of I kind of would like it for him to be the answer. Like, that'd be the answer that they need. But anyways, sorry. Back to the Cowboys, and we're...
Look, we got New England who cut Cam.
Yeah.
Cam Newton is available. I don't think anyone's claiming him off waivers, but I think a lot of teams are going to call him as
Yeah.
possible backup.
Yeah.
So
He's from what I've heard, he's stated that he doesn't want it out there that he's not willing to be a backup. So he's
but
at least willing to entertain the
I
idea.
think it depends on the situation.
Well, I think to your question initially about him a few weeks ago and him not being vaccinated, is he hurting himself? And I think at this point, yes, that is hurting himself by not being vaccinated, because a lot of teams are saying, like, if you're not going to be vaccinated, we're not going to put the money up.
So much of it is they have to cover their own butts.
Yeah, I mean,
If you're not vaccinated, you're going to have a higher likelihood of having to miss more days if you're just in contact with somebody.
Yeah.
Who is positive, versus if if you have gotten your vaccination. I think the rules that they put forth state something to the effect that there's fewer days that you have to do the testing.
Yeah, I mean,
So because of those simple things, it's hard to say you're going to be our quarterback and we can trust you, but you're not going to be able to be available per se.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, as we've said before. It's not, we look at just the athletes of what they're missing, but if there's a breakout in the stadium, and then now there's 25 employees that were handing out food, and then they infect their family. Like, the way this virus spreads, it spreads fast as it is, let alone in a workplace where these people are in small, close quarters, and they're we're cooking next to each other. There's 75 people on the other side that they're breathing and they're drinking and they're trying to tell you what they want, and their germs are all over. Like, being out in public in general is fucking disgusting when you start breaking down germs and things of that nature. So, so it all factors, and then you got these athletes that are flying from state to play and game to game, and all that affects it. And they say that's where a lot of
So you hear what happened in Jacksonville with the head coach?
Go further.
He was asked about his cuts.
Yeah. And he's like,
if they didn't have their shot, if that factored into it,
Yeah.
and he was pretty much said, yeah, like, of course it did. And the NFL is investigating now. I think Buffalo got in trouble for essentially saying the same thing, and then they had to backtrack on it. But
so
look, here's a simple fact: you have to factor everything in.
Yeah,
like everything.
You're
like, dude, you got diarrhea all the time. I can't have you on over here if I can't call you to come on the field because you're in the toilet.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that again, that's the, you look at Jerry as being a monster for, wanting this and that, but like, how much is he in control over as opposed to just being an owner of a team? Like, he actually is paying attention. He has to pay attention to when staff doesn't show up, who's getting sick, how much of an outbreak, and not just on the team. Again, you're talking, the towel boy or the fucking, whoever, there's so many people, so many moving factors. An organization has 1,000 people from top to bottom that you have to keep safe. And Jerry's a big proponent to, you're going to get vaccinated, or you should be vaccinated.
Yeah. So some of these guys, like a Cam Newton, even though I would love to have Cam here in the idea of as a backup.
Yeah.
I think last week I said Minshew would be great here. Then they ended up trading him to Philly.
Yeah. Fuck Philly.
It's still it's still the same concept that a player, regardless of knowledge of the playbook,
yeah,
if they can play, I can use them.
Yeah.
Draw something up in the sand, let's go.
Right.
And that's as a backup. Now, hopefully, I don't need you.
Yeah.
Until, fourth quarter, because we're blowing everybody out, so I can throw you in there so you can work on what you need to.
So one thing I entertain, one thing I like about having a solid backup quarterback, and this is going from, having the potential of having a Cam as your backup, or having Dalton or Bledsoe or whoever, Bledsoe many years ago, as a backup. You know, they have the skill set to be a starter. So as a starter, it should push you to be that much better. And that's what I like. Like, even though, yes, you say like you're gonna be the starter, but you also know you can't fucking slack off because your backup has the same potential when you're talking about these.
Yeah, pushing somebody towards being better. Of course.
When you're talking about these particular quarterbacks, we're not talking about not talking about Cooper. Cooper, if you hear me, fuck you. Not talking about
Cooper's
you.
gonna kick you in the nuts.
If he ever sees me, he might ask me for 5 minutes.
All right, now look, we're gonna switch it up just a little bit. Still talking quarterbacks, still talking NFL, but these are two people I don't like. Now I can say this though. You're probably thinking, man, who do you like? You're a hater. And that's not far off. But there's Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. There is a lot of people now, who are starting to wonder, was it really Brady or was it Belichick? You know, Brady went out last year and won that Super Bowl. Yeah. So with Bill Belichick having to cut Cam Newton and start a rookie at quarterback, the idea is it more New England success? Was it more Bill Belichick or Tom Brady? I'll let you start off first. Yeah, that's right. I'll let you.
I will say I am of the notion that I believe that
of the notion that I believe.
Yes. I think that if Belichick does not have a winning season this year or next year, he won't be the head coach any longer.
That doesn't answer my question.
I'm telling them that's what I think.
That doesn't answer my question.
With that being said, I think that they both...
I think he's trying to answer my question now.
I think they were both 50-50 in the sense that Brady is very much a talented quarterback. I think Belichick cheats when he needs to win.
And Brady doesn't? Deflategate?
Again, I think that they were both 50-50 in what made them win.
And I know you are wrong. So
you think this is Belichick that made them win?
Belichick. Look.
He's telling you better check. That's his name.
Tom Brady had a couple seasons where he got hurt.
Yes.
Matt Castle was a quarterback in one. Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo was a quarterback in the other. Okay? Now,
did Jimmy start for them?
Hold on, yes. Now, hold on. During this time, in one of those seasons that Tom Brady got hurt, New England won, I think, 10 or 11 games and didn't make the playoffs. They won 10 or 11 games and did not make the playoffs. In the other season, I think Garoppolo ended up getting himself... he played way fewer games than Matt Castle did. He ended up getting himself a big contract in San Francisco from his short tenure under Bill Belichick.
Okay.
He was successful. They were winning. The New England Patriots did not collapse because they lost their starting quarterback in Tom Brady. Maybe they didn't win the 12th, 13th game that they normally would have.
Right.
But they did not collapse. They did not go to, we're going to have a number one draft pick now, like in the top 10. No. They were still upper echelon team without Tom Brady when Tom Brady got hurt. Now, last year, you look at them, hey, they kind of sucked, right?
Yeah.
That said, when you look at Tampa last year, I think they were like 5-7 or some crap like that to start off with. Then they went on their run,
Yeah.
finished strong. Then they ended up obviously winning all their playoff games.
Right.
So when I look at Tom Brady, you weren't impressive last year except for in the playoff run.
Right.
You were not impressive throughout the whole freaking season, where you had Antonio Brown and you had Mike Evans.
Yeah.
You are not impressive with those two studs at wide receiver. By the end of the year, your stats look solid. Yes, you're 44 or however old
44 this year.
that he is. But when I saw Tom Brady missing games in New England and New England still winning systematically without him,
Yeah.
that let me know it's the system. It's what Bill Belichick has put in there
Yeah.
that causes them to win more than it is any one player. Now, that's not to say that Tom Brady wasn't the difference between them being a playoff team and a Super Bowl team, because it really could factor in,
Yeah.
you know. But I think it was way more. The success, the overall success, was way more Belichick than it was Brady. Now, don't turn around and say, yeah, you're a coach, so you're biased. You're trying to give coaches more props. But I really do believe that that's the difference. Now, when you look at a team like Pittsburgh, the Steelers, for so many years, look, they've had 3 head coaches in the duration of the Steelers. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
For so many years, they won because they were going to play hard-nosed defense. They were going to run the ball. And they were going to play low-risk throwing. And they won. They have more Super Bowl wins than anybody. Because their methodology, no, it may not win every year. But it's going to be consistent.
Yeah.
So Bill Belichick is that level of consistency for the Patriots. The Pittsburgh way no longer exists right now. Mike Tomlin let it change.
Yeah.
That's fine. He's still a great coach. But the New England way is because of Bill Belichick. It's not because of Brady.
I think I've said it for a long time that Belichick
You're wrong. I don't know what you're saying, but I just like
Belichick has a way of working players to their strengths and not trying to force them so much.
You're right.
Not force them into, well, this is how we do it here. It's more of he picks the players that, like, you know what? You can run the slot. That's all I need you to do is run the slot.
Yes, that's what he does.
And whereas to a lot of players who are like, well, we're going to change our system. We're no longer going to do drags. We want you to do deep balls. And
it's the opposite of what Garrett did.
Yeah.
Jason Garrett said, yeah, I know you run up the middle well, but let's go ahead and run you to the right because they'll never see it coming.
Exactly.
Bill Belichick is like, you run up the middle well. You suck, run to the right. We'll never run you to the right.
Exactly.
And that's what he does.
Exactly.
And because he focuses on what you do well,
yeah,
he maximizes it.
And extends a lot of players that people have said, oh, they're past their prime. They're no longer a
viable player. Yeah.
So that much I will say. I don't think and this comes from what I've seen on ESPN and Undisputed, that they were saying that he might be questioning or he might perceive it that everyone's questioning his football knowledge, and they were trying to say like he's football. No one's questioning your football. Maybe how you're dealing your team, whatever. And so it made it an interesting topic for me. I wanted to kind of dive into it. I do think that, as I said, he's great at finding what your strength is, and I don't need you to do anything else but play your strength. And you do that, we'll win some games.
Yeah, and look, he gets rid of talented players all the time. If they're not willing to take the money that he offers them, he says, "All right, well, bye."
That I will say, I did mention that about Brady is I think Brady willing to take cuts throughout his time there, it did help. I mean, he didn't never cash out on being the quarterback that got the record breaking. He was like, I'll take a play because it was important for him to win just as much as it was for the rest of the team.
So
he wanted talented players around him.
So I was watching this interview of Troy Aikman.
Yeah.
Where they were talking about his legacy as far as quarterback of all time or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's 3 quarterbacks with more Super Bowl wins than him. Do you know who they are?
No.
Bradshaw.
Okay.
Montana. Brady.
Okay.
Troy Aikman won 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Bradshaw, Montana got 4. And Brady has 7.
Right.
When people talk about Troy Aikman, non-Cowboy fans, they say, yeah, but his stats suck. And what he was saying is like, look, if you were trying to compare me statistically with some of these other guys, I'm not going to compare. He said, but I came into the league with the idea that what matters is championships. Right. So all I cared about was winning championships. So if that meant handing the ball off to Emmitt Smith, then I was going to hand off the ball to Emmitt Smith. And I think what ended up being was Troy Aikman's not a quarterback with gaudy numbers. But if you grew up in the 90s or you watched football in the 90s, you knew he was one of the top 3 quarterbacks every year.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a question. It was him, Steve Young, and then throw in any of a number of other quarterbacks, whether it's Favre or you're talking about Kelly or Marino or Elway. Yeah. You could throw in any number of other great quarterbacks playing in that era, but he was right there in the conversation.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at a quarterback, how you're going to judge how good they are, and you're talking about championships or overall stats, those are different things.
Yeah.
Brady obviously has these championships. The first 3, not because of him. It was all the team.
Right.
Now, when you look at the rest of them, he definitely factored into them.
Yeah.
So, I can't say that he's not an all-time great quarterback. I can say those 3 quarterbacks.
Damn it.
No, I'm not. Never. I still take probably 4 or 5 quarterbacks before him all time. I take Montana for sure. I take Montana over him. I take Peyton Manning over him. I take Troy Aikman over him. I take Roger Staubach over him.
Joe Montana.
So that's 4 quarterbacks without thinking. Now, when I say that, I don't mean to diminish what Tom Brady has done. He's the most successful quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
I still don't see it as he is the key factor in New England having won those championships. He is a factor.
Yeah.
Second half of his career, a big factor. But I think implementing the system that they implemented, that's Belichick. Him and his cheating ways.
You hear that, Belichick? Coach Rudy says you're a cheater.
Yeah, I say it to your face, too.
All right, next topic. We got another topic?
Nah, that's it for today, bro.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to get to the running backs next week.
Okay.
Again.
One last thing as far as for the Hall of Fame, since we talked about it a couple times. Jerry says that Romo is Hall of Fame worthy. I just want to know your opinion on it.
Look, honestly, I think if Romo played for a different team, yes, he is Hall of Fame worthy. If you're going to look and say Romo should be in the Hall of Fame because he owns like 90% of the Cowboy quarterback records, then that's a good, strong argument. Because the Cowboys have 2-3 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame and have a long storied history. So if that's your argument, okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about success, he didn't have the success, man.
Yeah.
Now we can break it down and say why he didn't have the success.
Yeah.
And look, he's the difference in them being 8-8 all the time versus 2-14 like they probably should have been.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, either way, in Dallas, a quarterback is judged by rings.
Yeah.
Danny White owned all the records before Tony Romo did, and Danny White ain't in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Danny White was after Staubach, before Aikman, and nobody mentions Danny White except for my brother.
So I heard it, and I get why he wouldn't. And if he did, I would imagine it would be long after. It wouldn't be something that,
If he gets in the Hall of Fame, it's going to be because of his broadcasting.
Yeah, I don't see that him getting the respect of a quarterback to he doesn't have any rings, and as they said on Undisputed when they brought it up, when you look at the class of quarterbacks that'll probably at least be up, not even necessarily all of them will make it. You have Brady, you have the Mannings, both of them. You have
Eli don't deserve it. He'll get in, but
I'm just saying, the class, these are the quarterbacks that he played against.
You're gonna say, no, you're gonna say Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
You're gonna say Eli Manning, Peyton Manning. You're gonna say Drew Brees. You're gonna say Tom Brady, obviously.
Yeah.
But
these are all people that have made appearances.
No, that they won. Those are all quarterbacks that won.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and because of that,
well, they even mentioned Sanchez and a couple other ones, but yeah, they did.
Yeah, that don't make sense.
That's why I said they all at least.
Yeah. Darren Woodson needs to be in to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Darren Woodson, they ended up, the Cowboys, I don't know if you caught it. I think I sent you a link to it. They put up a video on YouTube for Darren Woodson, pretty much for people to recognize that he is underrated and he's great, and tell his story for Hall of Fame voters to actually appreciate him more.
Yeah.
Look, Darren Woodson was one of the better safeties of all time. Did he have the picks? No.
Is this the one your brother talks about all the time?
No.
Or was that a cornerback that he was always
Cornerback, Darryl Green. No. He don't have the picks. But he had the most tackles for the Cowboys of any player. But when he retired, he had more tackles than any player in the Cowboys history.
You know where I would go?
As a safety.
That Jerry mentions, brought it up to Hall of Fame. Cowboys have their own, what is it? The
Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor. That's where I see him landing.
He's already there. You talking about Romo?
Yeah.
Yeah, Romo will get to that, but
that's what I'm saying. Because he was mentioning the Hall of Fame. I'm saying, you can.
One of the things that held back a handful of players in Cowboys history was that they weren't in the Ring of Honor. Yeah. And some media people said, well, if you're not even in your own team's Ring of Honor,
right,
we're not going to put you in the Hall. Now, the thing that they didn't recognize was whenever they created the Ring of Honor, the Cowboys went at it with the idea that this is going to take character into consideration. These people that are in the Ring of Honor are not just great football players. They're great people. That was the idea behind it. Right. So it was supposed to be even more exclusive than the Hall.
Okay.
But the Hall of Fame took that bass backward and decided, if you're not in that, we're not putting you in this.
Yeah.
And so that's why Darren Woodson is in that as the idea of hoping to help push him in.
Yeah.
I think he deserves it. He was the leader of that defense while they won, maybe not when they won the first two, but when they won that third Super Bowl in the 90s, he was the leader of the defense. And then he led several number one ranked defenses after they were a bad team.
Yeah.
So Darren Woodson deserves it. Underrated while he played by national media
Yeah.
because the Cowboys weren't good as a whole.
Because they weren't of years yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think him over Tony Romo all day, every day.
Based off the Hard Knocks, from what I can see, the stars well, I'm not calling them stars, but the ones that they focus the Hard Knocks on, it seems 2 of them have made the practice team for the Cowboys. And I'm not sure because I couldn't get a definite answer, but I think Kamara actually made the 53.
Kamara did.
Yeah.
His mom started screaming and singing and stuff.
So that was the one that I was, from watching Hard Knocks, I was hoping that Kamara made it. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, Acuna did not make it.
No, he's on the practice team.
Yes, so that's good.
Yeah.
So he still has a chance.
Yeah. So that concludes this week, guys. Hopefully you guys like our whatever we do every week. Want to follow me? Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at CBJSL.
He does like stalkers.
_E_J on both Twitter and Instagram. You can follow Coach Rudy at
Rudy V 1982 on the Twitter.
On Twitter.
I said the Twitter.
Yes. That too. As always, guys, please like, comment, share, subscribe. If you guys have anything you want us to talk about, you're going to have to leave those comments somewhere, whether it's on our YouTube channel or if you tweet us or somewhere so we can see it and we can, bring
apparently you can donate money to us too.
Yes, if you want to go to Anchor, go to if you're listening to this on a podcast,
you say, man, these guys deserve to have my hard-earned money.
You can go to in the description. There's a hyperlink. You just click on it, and there's a donation button you can click, and you can make a donation of 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. Whatever you want to do each and every month, it'll help us continue to do these podcasts each and every week.
Because it'll allow us to pay for electricity.
Yes. And the internet bill, so we can upload these. And anything else that we need to mention as far as for... Oh, listen to the ads, I guess.
Yeah, do that.
All right, guys. I'm out of here till next time.